Let me tell you about a patient named Edward. Edward was 72 years old. He was the picture of what we call active aging. Every single morning, rain or shine, Edward put on his sneakers and walked 4 miles around his neighborhood. He tracked his steps religiously on his smartwatch. He always hit 10,000. His cardiologist loved him. His blood pressure was perfect. His cholesterol was low. Edward believed he was doing everything right. He believed he was immune to the frailty that claimed his friends. But one Tuesday afternoon, Edward was walking to his kitchen. There was a small, almost invisible wrinkle in the rug. His toe caught the edge. In that split second, his brain sent a panic signal to his legs to stumble, correct, and recover his balance. It is a reflex we take for granted. But his legs did not respond fast enough. Edward fell. He hit the tile floor with the full weight of his body. The impact fractured his hip bone. He spent 3 weeks in the hospital, then 2 months in a rehabilitation center. He developed pneumonia from lying in bed, and sadly, Edward never went home again. He passed away 6 months later from complications related to immobility. This story is tragic, but it is not unique. It is a medical paradox that baffles millions of seniors. How can a man who walks 4 miles a day be so fragile? How can a man with a strong heart have such weak legs? The answer lies in a dangerous misconception that has permeated our culture for 50 years. We have been told that staying active means moving around. We have been told that walking is the holy grail of senior health. And while walking is excellent for your heart and excellent for your mood, I'm here to tell you a hard truth. Walking is not enough to save your life. Walking is not enough to keep you out of a nursing home. In fact, relying only on walking might be the very reason so many seniors lose their independence in their 70s. In this documentary, we are going to expose the phenomenon of selective sarcopenia. We are going to look under the microscope at your muscle fibers and explain why the fibers that help you walk are not the fibers that save you from a fall. We are going to explore the difference between endurance and power. And most importantly, I'm going to teach you the 3 specific movements, the power protocol, that you must add to your routine if you want to build a body that is truly break-proof. To understand why Edward fell, we have to go back in history. We have to look at where the advice to just walk came from. In the mid-1960s, just before the Tokyo Olympics, a Japanese company invented a device called the Manpoke. It translates literally to 10,000 steps meter. It was a marketing campaign. It was catchy, it was simple, and it spread across the world. Doctors adopted it because it was easy to prescribe. Just walk 10,000 steps. And for cardiovascular health, it works. It keeps the arteries open. It manages blood sugar. But here's the problem. Your body is not just a heart and a set of lungs. Your body is a mechanical structure made of levers and pulleys, your bones and muscles. And the biological rules for keeping muscles young are completely different from the rules for keeping the heart young. This brings us to the microscopic anatomy of the human muscle. If we took a tiny biopsy of your thigh muscle and looked at it under a powerful electron microscope, we would see a mosaic. We would see a mix of 2 very distinct types of fibers. First, you have the type 1 fibers. These are often called slow twitch fibers. They are red because they are packed with blood and oxygen. These are the marathon runners of your body. They are incredibly efficient. They can work for hours without getting tired. They are designed for low-intensity, repetitive movements. When you walk 4 miles, you are using almost exclusively type 1 fibers. And here's the good news. Type 1 fibers are very resilient to aging. Even at 80 years old, you keep most of your type 1 fibers. That's why an 80-year-old can still walk long distances. But then you have the type 2 fibers. These are the fast twitch fibers. They are white. They are larger. These are the drag racers of your body. They are not built for endurance. They burn out in seconds, but in those few seconds, they generate massive amounts of force and speed. You use type 2 fibers when you sprint to catch a bus. You use them when you lift a heavy suitcase, and crucially, you use them when you trip on a rug and need to throw your leg forward in 200 milliseconds to catch yourself. That stumble and recover reflex is pure type 2 power. Here's the tragedy of aging. Starting around age 35, but accelerating rapidly after age 60, the human body undergoes sarcopenia, muscle loss. But it is not random, it is highly selective. Studies show that seniors lose their type 2 power fibers twice as fast as their type 1 endurance fibers. This is the silent atrophy. You can look in the mirror and think your legs look fine. You can walk your 10,000 steps and think you're strong. But under the skin, the white, fast twitch fibers are dying off one by one because they are never stimulated. Walking does not stimulate them. Walking is too easy for them. To wake up a type 2 fiber, you need intensity, you need resistance, or you need speed. If you only walk, you're letting your safety system rot away. So Edward had fantastic type 1 fibers. He could walk all day, but when he tripped, when he needed that sudden explosive burst of speed to move his leg and regain his balance, his type 2 fibers were gone. The signal went from his brain to his leg, but the machinery to execute the command was atrophied. He fell because he had endurance, but he had zero power. Power is a specific physics term. It is defined as force multiplied by velocity. It is the ability to move something, your body, quickly. Geriatric scientists are now sounding the alarm. They are saying that power is a much better predictor of functional independence than strength. You can be strong enough to slowly leg press a heavy weight, but if you cannot move your own body weight quickly, you are at risk. Think about the movements that define independence: getting out of a low car, standing up from a toilet, climbing a steep set of stairs, catching yourself when a grandchild jumps into your arms. None of these are slow. None of these are endurance events. They are short, burst-like power events. If we want to avoid Edward's fate, we have to change how we train. We have to stop obsessing over the odometer and start obsessing over the engine. But it's not just the muscles that are failing us, it's the wiring itself. There's a neurological component to this atrophy that explains why seniors often describe their legs as feeling heavy or slow to respond. We need to dive deeper into the nervous system. We need to look at the motor unit, and we need to understand the critical concept of the fatal 200 milliseconds. Let's move to the next section, where we dissect the anatomy of a fall and why your brain might be sending emails that your legs are leaving unread. We have established that your muscles are changing. The fast, explosive fibers are shrinking. But a muscle is useless without a command. It is just a piece of meat until a nerve tells it to contract. This brings us to the second layer of the problem, the wiring. Imagine your body is a house. Your brain is the electrical panel in the basement. Your muscles are the light bulbs in the attic. Connecting them are long wires called motor neurons. A single motor neuron connects to a bundle of muscle fibers. Together, they form what we call a motor unit. When you are young, you have hundreds of thousands of these motor units. The connection is pristine. The signal travels at over 200 miles per hour. When you trip, your brain screams, "Move," and a light bulb turns on instantly. But as we age, something frightening happens to the wiring. We experience a process called motor unit remodeling. The nerves that connect to those precious type 2 fast twitch fibers, the ones we need for balance, are the first to die. They detach from the muscle. When the nerve disconnects, the muscle fiber is left orphaned. It has no instructions, so it withers away and dies. But here is the fascinating part. Sometimes a nearby end nerve, type 1, will see that orphaned fiber and say, "I will save you."
It sends out a sprout and reconnects to the abandoned fiber. This sounds like a good thing. The muscle is saved. But there's a catch. When a slow nerve rescues a fast fiber, it converts that fiber. It changes its personality. That explosive Ferrari-like fiber becomes a slow, tractor-like fiber. So, over time, your muscles become homogenized. You lose the diversity of your engine. You become all endurance. This is why seniors move slower. It is not just habit, it is biological rewiring. You literally lose the high-speed gears in your transmission. This rewiring has a deadly consequence during a fall. Let's dissect the anatomy of a stumble. Let's freeze time and look at the fatal 200 milliseconds. You're walking. Your foot hits an uneven sidewalk slab. Your center of gravity shifts forward. You are falling. At 0 milliseconds, sensors in your inner ear and your eyes detect the tilt. By 50 milliseconds, the signal reaches your brainstem. By 100 milliseconds, your brain calculates the solution. Extend the right leg forward rapidly to create a new base of support. Now comes the critical moment. The brain sends the command down the spinal cord to your quadriceps and your calves. In a young person or a power-trained senior, the muscles fire instantly. The leg shoots out. They stumble, look embarrassed, but they stay upright. Total elapsed time, roughly 180 milliseconds. But in an untrained senior, the signal travels down and hits a degraded system. The fast twitch fibers are gone. The wiring is slow. The muscles contract, but they contract sluggishly. They don't have the explosive force to swing the heavy leg forward in time. 200 milliseconds pass. The leg is not in position yet. 250 milliseconds pass. Gravity wins. 300 milliseconds. The hip hits the concrete. That delay, that fraction of a second, is the difference between a scare and a surgery. And the cruel irony is that walking slowly, the way most seniors are taught to do, reinforces this slowness. By never moving fast, by never challenging your reaction time, you are telling your brain, we don't need speed anymore. You can dismantle those fast circuits. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. We move slow because we are old, and we get old because we move slow. But it is not just the nerves and the muscles. There's a third component to this structural failure. We have to talk about the pillars of stability. When you look at a senior walking, really watch them. You will notice a change in their gait. They stop picking up their feet. They start shuffling. Their steps get shorter. Their feet get wider apart. Why? Is it just caution? No, it is weakness in specific critical areas. There are 3 muscle groups that are the absolute guardians of your independence, and almost all walking-only seniors have severe atrophy in these 3 areas. The first, and perhaps most ignored, is the calf complex, specifically the soleus and the gastrocnemius. We call these muscles the second heart. Yes, they pump blood back up to the chest, but biomechanically, they are your propulsion engine. When you walk, you need to push off the ground. That push comes from the calf. If your calves are weak, you cannot push. You can only lift and place, lift and place. You lose the spring in your step. Without that push-off power, your foot doesn't clear the ground properly. Your toe drags, and a dragging toe is the #1 cause of trips on carpets and rugs. The second pillar is the gluteus muscles, the powerhouse of the hip. These are the muscles that keep you upright. They extend the hip. When they get weak, you start to lean forward. You develop that hunched posture, and more importantly, you lose the ability to stand up. If you have to rock back and forth 3 times to get out of a deep sofa, that's gluteal amnesia. Your butt muscles have forgotten how to fire. And the third pillar is the tibialis anterior. This is the muscle on the front of your shin. Its only job is to lift your toes up towards your nose. When this muscle atrophies, you get foot drop. Your foot slaps the ground, and again, you trip. So we have a perfect storm. We have a brain that is transmitting slowly. We have muscles that have lost their fast twitch fibers. We have calves that cannot push and shins that cannot lift. And we're trying to fix all of this by walking slowly around the block. You can see why the math doesn't work. You can see why the just walk advice is incomplete. But there is hope, a lot of hope. Because unlike a car where parts wear out and cannot be fixed, the human body is plastic. It is adaptable. Even at 90 years old, you can reawaken these dormant fibers. You can force the nerves to reconnect. You can teach an old muscle new tricks. But you cannot do it with gentle movements. You have to introduce a new stimulus. You have to introduce resistance, and you have to introduce velocity. We're going to move into the solution, but before we get to the exercises, we need to address one final piece of the puzzle, the bones. Because if you do fall, the strength of your skeleton determines whether you bruise or whether you break. And walking, sadly, is failing your bones too. Let's talk about Wolff's Law and why your skeleton needs a challenge.
We have looked at the muscles. We have looked at the nerves. Now, we must look at the frame itself, the skeleton. There is a common belief that walking builds strong bones. And while walking is certainly better than sitting on the couch, when it comes to preventing a hip fracture, walking is surprisingly inefficient. To understand why, you need to understand a fundamental rule of biology called Wolff's Law. Named after the German anatomist Julius Wolff, this law states that your bones are not dead stones. They are living tissue. They are constantly dissolving and rebuilding themselves. But they are lazy. Your body is an efficiency machine. Maintaining dense, heavy bone requires a lot of energy and minerals. If your body thinks you don't need that density, it gets rid of it. It dissolves the bone matrix to save energy. So, how does your body decide if it needs strong bones? It measures mechanical stress. It measures deformation. When you impact the ground or when a muscle pulls hard against a bone, the bone bends slightly, microscopically. This bending creates a tiny electrical signal, a piezoelectric effect that screams to the bone cells, "We are under attack. Build more reinforcement here." This is where walking fails us. Walking is a low-impact activity. It applies a force roughly equal to your own body weight. But here is the catch. Your body is already used to your body weight. You carry it every day. Walking does not surprise your bones. It does not create that new stress signal. Once you have been walking for a few months, your bones adapt. They say, "Okay, we are strong enough for this," and they stop building. They enter maintenance mode. But maintenance mode is not enough to fight the hormonal bone loss of aging. To actually build bone density after age 60, or to at least stop the slide into osteoporosis, you need forces that are higher than normal. You need forces that are 2 or 3 times your body weight. You need impact, or you need heavy resistance. This is why a cyclist who has incredible heart health often has brittle bones, because the bike carries his weight. And this is why Edward, our walker, fractured his hip. His 4 miles a day kept his heart strong, but it did not provide enough mechanical signal to harden the neck of his femur. So, we are facing a triple threat. We have sarcopenia type 2 taking our fast muscles, we have neurological slowing killing our reaction time, and we have osteopenia making our bones brittle because our exercise is too gentle. The solution is not to walk more. Walking 8 miles instead of 4 will not fix this. More of the same stimulus produces the same result. The solution is to change the type of stimulus. We need to shift our focus from aerobic endurance to neuromuscular power. We need a protocol that targets the fast-twitch fibers, wakes up the dormant nerves, and surprises the bones with a load they are not expecting.
I call this the power protocol. It consists of 3 specific movements. You do not need a gym, you do not need expensive equipment, you need a chair, a wall, and gravity. But you must perform them with a very specific tempo. This is the secret sauce. This is what separates physical therapy from power training. The rule is explode up, control down. When you move against gravity, you must move as fast as you safely can. That wakes up the type 2 fibers. When you move with gravity, you must move slowly. That puts tension on the muscle and stress on the tendon. So, let's begin with the king of all movements, the single most important exercise for preserving your independence. Movement number 1, the sit to stand. This looks like a squat, but do not call it a squat. Think of it as an ejection seat. Here is why this movement saves lives. The motion of standing up from a chair requires you to extend your hip, extend your knee, and extend your ankle simultaneously. It uses the glutes, it uses the quads, it uses the core. It mimics the exact biomechanics of climbing a stair or recovering from a stumble. Here is how you do it. Find a sturdy chair, not a soft sofa that swallows you, a dining chair. Sit on the edge, feet flat on the floor, shoulder width apart. Now, tuck your feet back slightly underneath you. This is crucial for leverage. Most seniors, when they stand up, use momentum. They rock back and forth. 1, 2, and on 3, they throw themselves forward. Or worse, they push off their hands on the armrests. If you are using your hands, you are cheating your legs. You are letting your triceps do the work that your glutes need to do. For the power protocol, cross your arms over your chest, the genie position. Engage your core. Lean forward slightly at the hips. Now, here is the command. Stand up fast. Do not drift up. Drive your heels into the floor and explode to a standing position. Imagine you are trying to jump through the ceiling. Pop up. It should take 1 second or less. That sudden burst, that's your type 2 fibers waking up. That's the spark. Now you are standing. Don't just flop back down. This is the second half of the medicine. I want you to sit down, taking a full 3 to 4 seconds. Control the descent. Fight gravity. Do not let yourself crash into the chair. Touch the seat as softly as a feather. Why so slow? Because the eccentric phase, the lowering phase, is where we build the structural strength. It creates micro tears in the muscle that signal growth, and it puts a safe, heavy load on the tendons and bones. So, the rhythm is explode up 1 second, control down 4 seconds, up, and slow, slow, slow down. If you cannot do this without your hands yet, that's okay. Use your hands to help, but try to use them less every day. Or put a firm pillow on the chair to raise the seat height. Make it easier, but keep the speed. Aim for 10 repetitions. By the 8th repetition, your thighs should be burning. Your heart rate should be up. You are not walking, you are engineering power. But strong thighs are not enough if your feet are weak. Remember the second heart? Remember the muscles that push you forward and stop you from dragging your toes? We need to target the lower leg. We need to rebuild the foundation. This brings us to movement number 2, the soleus pump.
We have rebuilt the engine of your hips with the sit to stand. Now we must move down to the transmission, the lower leg. Look at how a teenager walks. There is a bounce in their step. There is a moment where their heel leaves the ground and they propel themselves forward into the air. Now look at a frail senior. The heel barely lifts, the foot slides, the step is flat. This loss of propulsion is caused by the atrophy of the calf complex, specifically the gastrocnemius and soleus muscles. When these muscles wither, you lose the ability to push off. And if you cannot push off, you cannot clear your toes. This creates the trip hazard that sends thousands of people to the emergency room every year. To fix this, we do not just walk. Walking does not load the calf enough to stimulate growth. We need movement number 2, the power calf raise.
Find a wall or a kitchen counter. Place your fingertips on it for balance. Do not hold on for dear life, just use it for stability. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart. Now, the goal is to lift your heels as high as humanly possible. You want to feel like you are standing on your big toes. But here is the critical mistake 90% of people make. They bounce. They go up, down, fast like a pogo stick. When you bounce, you are not using your muscles. You are using your Achilles tendon. The tendon is like a rubber band. It stores elastic energy. If you bounce, the tendon does all the work and the muscle stays asleep. To wake up the muscle, you must kill the bounce. You must use a 2-second pause. Drive up fast, power, hold it at the very top, squeeze the calf muscle hard, 1, 2, then lower slowly, 3, 4, 5. Let the heel touch the floor gently. Wait 1 second at the bottom to kill the momentum, then explode up again. That pause at the top cuts off the blood flow momentarily, creating metabolic stress. This signals the body to release growth hormone. That slow descent strengthens the tendon itself, making it stiffer and more resistant to snapping. If you do 15 of these correctly with the pause, your calves will scream. That burn is the feeling of your second heart coming back online. And suddenly, when you walk, you will feel lighter. You will feel that pop in your step returning. You will stop shuffling. Now, we have power in the hips. We have propulsion in the ankles. But we are missing one thing: the coordinator, the pilot. We need to talk about balance, but not just standing still. We need dynamic stability. When you walk, you spend about 40% of your time on one leg. Every time you take a step, you are balancing on one foot while the other swings forward. Walking is essentially a series of caught falls. If your stabilizers are weak, every step is a gamble. This leads us to movement number 3, the single leg stance, or the flamingo. This exercise targets a tiny hidden muscle called the gluteus medius. It sits on the side of your hip. You can't really see it, but it is the most important muscle for preventing a fall to the side. When you stand on one leg, your pelvis wants to drop. Gravity wants to pull you over. The gluteus medius clamps down and holds your pelvis level. It locks the hip in place. If you see a senior walking and they are waddling side to side like a penguin, that is gluteus medius weakness. Their hips are collapsing with every step. Here is the protocol. Stand next to your sturdy chair or wall, ideally in a corner so you are protected on 2 sides. Shift your weight to your left leg. Engage the glute. Grip the floor with your toes. Now, lift your right foot off the ground, just an inch. You don't need to bring the knee high yet, just hover. Your goal is to stand there like a flamingo for 30 seconds without holding on to the wall. Keep your hand hovering near the wall for safety, but try not to touch it. If you are wobbling violently, that is good. That wobble is your brain calibrating. That is your proprioception system, the GPS of your body, waking up. Your ankle is making thousands of micro adjustments per second. If 30 seconds is easy, we add the chaos factor. We take away your vision. Vision is the crutch of the balance system. We rely on our eyes to tell us where the horizon is. But as we age, our vision fails, or we get up at night in the dark. If you can only balance when you can see, you are in danger in the dark. So, the advanced move is the eyes closed flamingo. Be very careful. Have your hand on the wall before you close your eyes. The moment you shut your eyelids, your vestibular system in your inner ear has to take over completely. You will feel the difficulty skyrocket. You might only last 3 seconds. That is okay. 3 seconds of training the inner ear is worth an hour of walking. Work up to 10 seconds with eyes closed. So, there you have it, the power trinity. The sit to stand for hip power and vertical recovery, the calf raise for propulsion and stopping the shuffle, the flamingo for lateral stability and inner ear calibration. These 3 movements do not require a gym membership. They do not require spandex. They take less than 10 minutes, but they target the exact mechanisms that fail during a fall. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great, but is it too late for me? I'm 85. I have osteoporosis. You might be afraid that starting now will cause an injury. Let me tell you about the synergy of survival, and let me share the story of a woman who started this at 91 and changed her life.
Now, you might be asking yourself a very serious question. You might be looking at your own legs, perhaps already weakened by decades of sitting, and wondering if the ship has already sailed. You might be thinking, I am 85 years old, my bones are thin. If I try to explode up from a chair, I will hurt myself. That fear is valid, but biologically, it is incorrect. Let me share the case of a patient named Martha. Martha was 91 years old when she came to see me. She was using a walker. She had fallen twice in the bathroom. She was terrified. Her daughter was already looking at brochures for assisted living facilities. Martha told me, "Doctor, I am just too old to get strong." We started her on the power protocol, but we started slowly. For the sit to stand, she didn't use a low chair. We put 3 firm pillows on the seat so she only had to squat down 4 inches. For the calf raises, she did them seated first to learn the motion without the weight. For the flamingo, she held on to the counter with both hands, but she did them every single day. She sent the signal to her brain. She demanded speed. In the first 2 weeks, nothing seemed to happen. That is the neural wake-up phase. But by week 6, something clicked. Her nervous system reconnected the wires. She removed 1 pillow. By week 10, she removed the 2nd pillow. And by week 12, Martha walked into my office without her walker. She was carrying her own purse. She looked at me and said, "I can get up from the toilet by myself now. I don't need to call my daughter." That is the currency of power training. We are not training to look good in a swimsuit. We are training for dignity. We are training for the ability to lock the bathroom door and handle your own business. We are training for the ability to pick up a grandchild without fear. The science is clear. Muscle tissue is incredibly plastic. It responds to stimulus at 90 just as it does at 19. It just needs a little more recovery time. So do not let age be an excuse. Age is just biology, and biology can be hacked. Let's review the protocol one last time. This is your prescription. You do not need a pharmacy for this. You need 10 minutes in your living room. Movement 1, the sit to stand. 3 sets of 10 repetitions. Explode up in 1 second. Control down in 4 seconds. This builds the engine of your hips. Movement 2, the power calf raise. 3 sets of 15 repetitions. Pause for 2 seconds at the top. Eliminate the bounce. This builds your propulsion and clears your toes. Movement 3, the flamingo. 30 seconds per leg. Start with eyes open, progress to eyes closed when you are safe. This builds your gyroscope. Do this 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On the other days, yes, go for your walk. Enjoy the fresh air, enjoy the birds. Walk for your heart and for your soul, but do not walk for your legs. Your legs need a challenge. They need to be reminded of what it feels like to move fast. We are living in a miraculous time. We have extended the human lifespan by 30 years in the last century, but we have not matched that lifespan with health span. We have millions of seniors who are alive, but trapped in bodies that cannot move. I want you to break that cycle. I want you to be the outlier. The next time you see a rug or a curb or a steep set of stairs, I don't want you to feel fear. I want you to feel prepared. I want you to trust your machinery because you have done the work. You have trained the power.
And a powerful body is a free body. Start the protocol today. Do 1 repetition, then 2. Reclaim your fibers, reclaim your confidence, and never let the silent atrophy win. I am your senior doctor. Keep moving, keep strong, and I will see you in the next investigation.